Hey, I'm Justin Schenck, host of the Growth Now Movement podcast, and today we talk about overcoming adversity, thoughts on past presidents, and how to ask stupid questions to level up your life. Stay tuned.
Congratulations! You are tuned into Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Show, the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 executives and those who are dedicated to creating a quantum leap in leadership. Your host, Dov Baron, is the founder of FullMontyLeadership.com. He's an executive mentor to leaders like you, a contributing writer for Entrepreneur Magazine, CEO World, and he's been featured on CNN, Fox, CBS, and many other notable sites. Dov Baron is an international business speaker who was named by Inc. magazine as one of the top 100 leadership speakers to hire. Now, over to Dov Baron.
Welcome, dear friends, fans, and fellow aficionados of leadership excellence. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Tips for Executives, part of the Full Monty interview series. I'm your host, Dov Baron, founder of Full Monty Leadership, and I'm here to assist you tapping into your deep greatness so you can reach that next level of clarity, focus, purpose, and profit in your business, your life, and your leadership impact. Today, we're going to be taking an insider look at re-examining how we see success and why your social brand is vital in that process. Remember, you can now chat about this episode or any of our episodes on our Facebook page by going to Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty podcast. If you are a new listener, new viewer, thank you for joining us. Strap yourself in. We're about to go full Monty. And remember, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you tune into podcasts. We always need your help in staying relevant, so please get yourself over to iTunes, rate, review, and subscribe to the show. When you do, go back to our Facebook page, Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Podcast. Tell us that you've done a testimonial endorsement on iTunes, and maybe we'll give you a shout out on the live show. You can also catch us on traditional radio stations across the United States every Monday and Thursday. You can catch us all the way from Florida to Wisconsin and even Philadelphia. Also, look for us on Roku TV, where there's over 100,000 subscribers. And if you're a regular listener, big thank you to you for making us the #1 podcast for globally for Fortune 500 listeners, with a potential reach of 2.5 to 4 million listeners for every single show. We're honored and grateful to be cited by Inc.com as the #1 podcast to make you a better leader. You can also find us on Google Home and Alexa. Simply say, play Dov Baron podcast. Again, thank you for sharing the show with everyone you know. All right, let's strip it down and dive right in. As a leader, whether you're a CEO, C-suite leader, a sales leader, entrepreneur, leader in any capacity, you know that you've got to have a recognizable brand, not just for your company, but for you as an individual. It can seem like it's a lot to juggle, particularly in the face of adversity or even shame, which, we're all dealing with in some way, shape, or form. So how can you do it? Well, stay tuned, because I have a very special guest for you today. A guest who is not the usual fare, and I promise you this is going to be a very interesting conversation. Justin Schenck would have considered himself to be the least likely to succeed. But now his podcast gets played in over 100 countries every single week, and he's connecting and working with billionaires, massive influencers, celebrities, to help them grow their brands through podcasting. He's been named in the top 8 podcasts to watch for 2018 by Inc.com. He was chosen as an icon of influence at the new media event. What started out as a way to connect top people and inspire others has become a way of life. He's now getting played, as I said, in over 100 countries, and is making a greater impact than he probably could have ever imagined. He's not only speaking to organizations about how to overcome adversity, but he's talking about how to utilize podcasts to grow your business and help others launch and grow their own podcasts too. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome Justin Schenck.
I love it. Oh man, I love the intro. I love the energy, and honestly, I'm honored to be a part of your show and honored to have this conversation. And you were on my podcast, and we talked about it on there. I'm honored to call you a friend, and I'm just so glad that we were able to connect, however many months ago that was, and the relationship has grown from there.
Well, thanks, mate. I feel exactly the same. I'm honored to have you as a friend, and it was awesome being on your show and actually watching the responses to that, because that was a great show. And I really, you're a great interviewer and you bring out the very best in your guests. So let's go to that for a minute. Because usually if I would have somebody on here who maybe has a podcast, they also are a leadership speaker. They've been a CEO. What's yours? What's what's your curriculum vitae? What makes you so special?
It's really funny because I have a hard time putting a label on myself. And so I was on a podcast not that long ago, and I had filled out one of those forms pre-interview, and it says, "What should I refer to you as?" And I literally put ... Justin ? But I'm not. I guess you can call me a CEO. I'm the CEO of my own company, but I'm just the guy who founded a company who wants to make a big impact in the world, right? And so when I started the podcast, it was just a way to touch lives. It wasn't meant to be a full-time thing. It wasn't meant to be a business. At the time, I was in medical sales as a manager within an organization, doing really well. And then the podcast started to take off, and I realized that this is where I belong. And so my goal and my mission, it's always to touch millions of lives and let people know that, it doesn't matter where you come from. What matters is where you're going. And so I do that through my show. And then I do that by helping other people do it as well. So I own a podcast production business and coaching business where I help people kind of get their message out there and get their message heard, whatever that is, whether that's in health or whether that's in, mindset and so many leadership and so many other types of podcasts that I help out. That's something that I feel honored to do every single day. So I do own a company, but I don't like fancy titles.
So why podcasting for you? Because like you said, you're in medical sales, because at this point, we've got likely, millions of people who potentially can listen to this show who are going, I'm in sales, I'm a CEO, I'm a CFO, I'm a C something, I'm a leader, I'm an entrepreneur. Why would I even go on a podcast? And why would I even consider having a podcast? So I think that those questions might be in their mind. And before we answer them, let's go to you. Why did you go to that path? Because I've had my podcast, for 10 years. And I know why I came in. We talked about it on your show. Why did you go into that road? It seems obscure.
Yeah. So it looked like something I could do. I'm telling you right now, this process was the least thought out process of all time. And then I learned along the way. And I think that's kind of the journey of my life. Like I just figured it out as I stumbled upon things. And so there was a podcast called the School of Greatness that I listened to. And I saw him interviewing these people that inspired me. And I was like, I want to do that. Like, I want to connect with people who inspire me while creating a message that my listeners can hear, right? And so that's why podcasting. And I bought a $70 course online to learn how to edit a show. And I did that, and I just started. And over time, I've discovered how powerful of a medium it is. But to start, it was like, I think I could do that. And I hit record, and I recorded shows, and I put it out there, and learned a year and a half in that was the wrong way to do it. And there's a method and a madness behind this whole thing. But for me, it was, hey, I want to connect with really inspiring people. I want to learn from them. I want to personally grow. And at the same time, help others who tune in. I want to help them grow too. And so that's really how it started, was this could be cool. And then here we are 2.5 years later, it being my full-time thing and something that I build a living off of.
So why, let's just go there for a minute. Why do you want, I mean, everybody goes, I want to change people's lives. I want to have an impact, blah, blah, blah. Why for you?
So, that's a great question. And so when I originally launched the show, I had a co-host, and it was originally supposed to be an entrepreneurial business podcast that we focused on how to grow a business and so on and so forth. And 5 months before the show launched, my mom lost her 20-year battle with opioids. And in that moment, I had a feeling that I needed to do something to impact people, to realize that life isn't as bad as it seems right now. Because my mom's whole entire life, she would drown herself in medication and pill popping and all these things because she was trying to escape from something that wasn't a reality. It was in her own head. And I wanted to let people know that it gets better. Like, this isn't the end. As long as you still have a breath in your body, you can make something better. And so, you know, I realized that life is just a journey. Like, we're all trying to get to this end point. We're all trying to go, oh, I need to reach that $1 million. Oh, I need that mansion. But dude, the only end we have is death. And so if we can focus every single day on growth and learning and improving our lives and saying tomorrow can be a better day, that's all we need. That's how you find happiness. Like, I can truly say, especially over the last year of my life, that I am the happiest human being that I've ever encountered, because I'm just, and look, that doesn't mean I'm joyful every day. That doesn't mean that every day is a great day, an easy day, a fun day, but I'm happy every day. And so when you start to learn the definition of happiness, and you start to live in that world of continuous growth and understanding that we can get better, it untaps this crazy life that we don't feel like we need to escape from. You know, because there were moments in my life that I escaped, and I would go drink 10 beers in a night, and I would go, you know, numb a pain that I had internally, and, you know, lessons learned from our parents. Right. And so that's things that I did. But that's the real why behind this idea of connecting with and learning continuously and growing to the next level. You know, it came from my rock bottom moment.
So it came from that rock bottom moment, but it was actually inspired by your mom's pain.
Correct.
By her. So maybe a tough question, but are you speaking to your mother? What I mean by that is, you know, are you hoping that somebody on the other end of that podcast is someone like your mom who maybe feels like there isn't any hope, that, you know, I need to escape into an opioid or a bottle or a line or whatever the hell it might be? Are you talking to them?
100%. You know, I'm talking to my mom every single episode, every single time I speak on a stage. You know, the event that I'm planning now is because of and for her. And look, like, I'm not one of those people that I'm going, oh, I mean, at times I think this, but I'm not driven by the fact that, oh, is she proud? I'm driven by the fact that my mom wasn't happy. And so when I can talk to her through a podcast, and I can talk to her, you know, through the people listening, and understand that there's other people in this world that are going through exactly what she went through. And they might be numbing that pain with something different. It might be alcohol, it might be drugs, it might be just pure depression where they feel like they can't get out of bed, like life can't get any better. And yeah, I mean, to answer your question, yes, 100% I'm talking to my mom with every single word, every single action, every single thing that I do, because there are lives that I can now save because of the pain she went through.
You know, I talked about how you are now speaking on stages about overcoming adversity. You know, and my listeners, of course, know that my adversity, they know some of my adversity stories. They know, for instance, that I was born in poverty in a ghetto, and some of them know about my relationship with my father and all those kinds of things. And they know about me falling off a mountain. Of course, they don't know all the adversity I went through in my life. But you've had more than your fair share of adversity too. I mean, obviously, how old were you when your mom passed?
I just turned 30.
So, you know, so you're a man. And so people go, well, you know, you're an adult, you can handle this. Are you willing to talk to us about some of the adversity that went on in your childhood that impacted you? Because,
yeah, for sure.
Because that was also an impact directly on your mom and her process. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the adversity you went through? Because I think that we live in a comparative world, and it's one of the things that pisses me off. Everybody's going, well, what, you know, I don't have the right to complain because at least I wasn't raped as a child, or at least I wasn't beaten with a big stick, or, you know, whatever the hell it was. And that gives us permission to not get off our ass and actually do anything. Right. And I've always said that your life doesn't exist on Facebook, and neither does anybody else's. And we look at Justin Schenck on Facebook or on Instagram or wherever it may be. We look at Dove Bear, and we look at whoever it is, and we think their lives are freaking perfect. But we don't know that everybody has climbed or crawled over broken glass. And if you're crawling over broken glass in the moment, and whether that's crawling up underneath the blankets or slugging another beer or whatever it might be, you need to know, and this is one of the things I'm always pushing with my guests, you need to know that we've always overcome an adversity, and some of it we did in adulthood and some of it we done in childhood. So let us in on that, if you would, please, Justin. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. So like I said, it was a 20-year battle for my mom. So it started when I was 12. And so it was something that I experienced most of the remembering of my childhood. I don't remember much before 9. Right. And so from 9 to 12, everything seemed great. And then it all came crashing down. And, she actually worked in a pharmacy, which she lost her job for stealing pills. And that's what happened when I was 12. When you come home from school, when you're 12 years old, I mean, I don't even know what grade that is, 6th grade. And your mom's not there, but your whole entire family's there, and you don't really know why. And you walk in and your aunt's crying on a couch, and you're trying to figure this out. There's this alarming, like, what is going on? And what had happened was my mom actually ended up getting arrested for stealing the medication. So at that time she was in jail. She didn't serve any time, but she obviously came home later that night. And I remember like it was yesterday, the sadness that I felt. And I think, when you're 12, you don't realize why you're sad. But when you look back, you were sad because this is the woman who was supposed to teach you how to do life. She made a massive mistake. And when you're kids, you look up at your parents and they're on this pedestal. Like, they're not afraid of anything. They can handle everything. And when you see their first weakness and it's that massive, that's crazy. And it started to shift my life. And that's when I started to check out. Now it's funny because as I'm talking about this now, like, you should be my therapist off. I'm realizing that's when I stopped engaging in school. That's when I started getting bad grades. Because I was just checking out, and my parents shortly then after got a divorce, even though they fought most of my life anyway, but they got a divorce shortly after that. And I went from living in a $500,000 home, and my mom moved into a 2-bedroom apartment. My dad moved into a trailer because his business was doing poorly at the time. And it became my life path was carved for me at first, and I was supposed to graduate high school and go to college. And now it's like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know if that's what I want to do. It just became this crazy thing. And the roads was rocky after that. When I was 15, my dad got arrested and went to jail. That started a whole new thing, and I had to change high schools. And so there was a lot of ups and downs. And it's funny because people see me now, and like you said, they go, oh, it seems, his life must have been easy. Like, let's be honest. Like, I'm a white man in America. Like, yeah, there's certain things that have been super easy. But they don't realize the path that I've been through. And it was a lot of personal turmoil and looking at these two people that you idolize and go, wow, they make mistakes too. And that caused a lot of pain for me. And I went off to have horrible grades in high school. My junior year of high school, I had a 1.7 GPA because I just didn't want to be there. So yeah, I mean, that was a lot of the stuff I had to overcome. And it's a little bit different. Like you said, I wasn't raped. I didn't have my own addiction problems. I didn't, it wasn't things that I personally went through, but there's things that I've witnessed, and there's things that affected my life. And therefore that is the journey that I led.
But there's a thing there that I want to pick up on, which we wouldn't normally go to, but I think it's vitally important for people to grasp. And that is, I believe without a shadow of a doubt, the most damaging psychological process is shame. Without doubt. It's shame. And that's why, by the way, many sociopaths are very successful, because they have no shame. So am I saying you should get rid of shame? No, I'm not. I think shame can be very valuable. There's something called healthy shame that's a different category. But shame is also transferred. And as you said, parents are pedestalized, they know why the grass is green, why the sky is blue. They're all powerful. And it's hard to believe that they could in some way fuck up. And that's why even when I was a therapist, that I would say to people, listen, I'm not here to attack your parents. And people would try and protect them. I'm not attacking them. I'm saying, what did they not give you that you needed? And so there's this transference, when your mom is arrested for stealing opioids, and your buddies at school find out about that, and your aunt knows about it, you walking around in this cloud of shame. And that's tough. And you begin to check out of school, but then at 15, you're still at school, your dad's arrested, and he's going to jail. And, so talk to us about dealing with shame. because that is something that is there every day. It's, you're walking into it. And the interesting thing about shame is that you don't need anybody else to say it. Once it's been transferred onto you, you carry it around like a fucking sign saying, I'm shameful, head down, don't look up, So this is why I'm fascinated by this, I'll tell you, because you are a very successful podcaster. You've interviewed some amazingly powerful individuals, and everything in your history says you're going to end up living in a trailer down by the river, right? And speaking into a fan, doing Darth Vader impersonation. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And yet, I know even in the last 6 months or 8 months or so that I've known you, you've grown enormously as a human being and in your business, and your business is growing. And I know that you're having to scale your business because of this. So it's contradictory. And people are often listening to podcasts, as you know, when they're feeling like they're in the freaking toilet. So that's why I want to bring this thing up around shame, because it would have been easy for you to go down another path. Talk to us about dealing with that.
Yeah, so that's actually a really great question, because it's funny, the more you talk about these things, the more you figure out, the more you unlock the certain moments that, oh, wow, this happened. And I was shameful of, the choices that my parents made. And when I changed high schools, I would lie to kids as far as why I came to a different high school after sophomore year, and why at the time I was living with my aunt and uncle. And I would say, oh yeah, my mom just can't get a job here, blah, blah, blah. And so it was one of those things that I was lying about everything.
Right.
Fast forward, I was 19. I think I might have been 20 years old at this time. And I was dating this girl. It was like the first person I ever thought I loved. Or that first love thing. And we're about a year into the relationship and we went to dinner with her parents, and her mom looked at me. And at this time, my dad was still in jail. And her mom looked at me and said, hey, you don't really talk about your dad much. Do you ever see him? And I go, well, to see my dad, I need visitation rights. And the girl that I was dating grabbed my leg under the table really hard. And immediately I went, wow, this relationship's over. And, but at the same exact time that I had that feeling, this weight lifted off my shoulder, because finally I realized that I no longer have to lie. I don't have to lie and apologize for the things that somebody else did. There's no reason to have that shame. And it wasn't fun. Like, I was sad that the relationship was going to be over. And it did, by the way, it did end 3 months later, because her parents said, hey, you marry the family too, to her all the time after that.
Yeah.
But, that part was sad, but I felt better about myself. And then right around the same time is when I started this journey of self-development and reading books and making sure I was connecting with the right people and building relationships with people that were forward thinkers and taking their life to the next level. And obviously there was a lot of work from there. Like, there's a story between, 20 and 34 as well. But at the same time, that was a huge moment for me when I let go of that shame, because when I carried it around, that was my story. And even though I didn't say it, I allowed it to weigh me down. And that moment when I realized I could say to an adult, no, well, I could make a joke about it, right? And let people know that this is the truth about me. There was just this massive weight lifted off my shoulder, and I could start to build the Justin I was supposed to become.
That's fantastic. So let's sort of fast forward a bit, because how long have you had the podcast now?
2.5 years.
So you had the podcast 2.5 years. You were in medical sales. What was the one thing that you did for a long time that actually blocked you from success? Because every person I know who was successful can point out, I used to do this shit all the time. What was that for you? What was it that blocked you from your success?
Not feeling worthy, not feeling like I belonged. This will actually be the first time I share this story. I still have moments of this. So in 2017, I set a goal where I said, I want to feel like I belong at the table. What that meant was I wanted to feel internally that these people that I'm interviewing, that I deserve to be around them. That's all I wanted. By the end of the year, I just wanted to feel like that. And by the end of 2017, the Inc. article happened and really grew my podcast. And in 2018, I set a goal and I said, I want to be at that table. And that means you put in the work. You actually live the life that you're starting to feel on the inside.
Right.
And I started to do that, and I started to become friends with these celebrities and working with larger brands that I've been interviewing. And just about a month and a half ago, I was in Ohio. And I was sharing an Airbnb with Justin Wren, who's one of the world's most well-known Bellator MMA fighters, Nick Santonastasso, who is completely changing the world with his life story. And then that night, Steve Weatherford, who's a Super Bowl champion and one of the world's most renowned health people now, we were sitting in the Airbnb watching the Conor McGregor fight. So I was at that table. I'm like, holy crap. Like, you set an intention and you can actually make it happen. And here I am at the table. But the part of the story that I haven't shared yet was earlier that day, I had a massive meltdown as I was supposed to go to Steve Weatherford's hotel room because they were going to record a couple of podcast episodes for his show. And I got this massive, overwhelming feeling of, I don't belong here. I don't deserve this. And I literally looked at all three of these guys and I went, hey guys, I'm going to leave. And they're like, what? And I was like, I'm just going to go get lunch by myself. And Steve was like, dude, I have food coming up to the room. Just come hang out. And I was like, no, I'm just going to go. And I walked away and I completely isolated myself and had this crazy, overwhelming feeling. So again, you talk about this Facebook world. You know, I posted a picture and saying, hey, I'm hanging out with these guys and this is great. I had a great weekend. But there was an internal battle that finally I reached this goal and I went, I don't deserve this. I don't belong here. So, you know, I think that with this journey that we're on, right, we can set an intention and we can get there and we can reach our goals. But the big thing was feeling like I was worth it. And actually Justin Wren and I had a great conversation. I let him know how I was feeling, and he's one of the greatest human beings ever. And he really made me feel good. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you need those words of affirmation from other people to say, dude, you do belong here. Like, there's a reason you're here. Like, we're actually all here because we knew you. Like, you're the connecting point with all of this happening. You know, but I think that was probably me holding on to my story still and saying I don't belong here because of this. And I haven't reached the ultimate goals that I've set for myself. And, but yeah, I mean, you know, I kind of went on a tangent, but at the same time, like, there was a massive shift even in that moment where I go, no, I do belong here. I do deserve this.
You know, it's interesting. I had a conversation with, and you may have seen some of the videos I've done around self-worth versus self-esteem, and those things are vastly different and often confused. And self-esteem is what we get from the world. So self-esteem is the 400 likes. It's the, wow, you're great, you know, all those things. And it's even being, you know, Inc. saying you're in the top 8 podcasts to listen to, or in my case, you know, the #1 podcast for Make You a Better Leader. It's all self-esteem. It's lovely. Don't get me wrong. I like it, but it's self-esteem. And so somebody was asking me the other day, well, you know, where does self-worth come from? Because I explained that self-worth is internal. But self-worth comes from owning your value. And this person said to me, okay, but how do you own your value? And I say, when you feel heard. It's that simple. And one of the things that I believe we do as interviewers, not as podcasters, who gives a shit, that's just a medium, but as interviewers, is we listen. And the great podcasters listen. We listen and we hear pieces in that story that other people don't hear. You know as well as I do, because we've both done hundreds of interviews. The best interview that we've been on is where the interviewer listened and caught something that nobody else caught. Or where we caught something from our guest and they went, oh, I've never told this story before. And that comes out. And that is a statement of value. You are worth listening to. And I think that that's a piece that 99% of people miss. We're so busy trying to get self-esteem, telling everybody how wonderful we are, that we forget to listen, because if we listen, we train others to listen to us, and we get that value, the self-worth. It's fascinating. It really is.
And you're absolutely right. And you know, it's so true, because I think about that, and you and I had a conversation about podcasts and how, you know, you and I are really good at going deep, and a lot of other podcasters who, you know, are known as like the best, they go, you know, a mile deep, you know, and it's an interesting dynamic when you kind of pay attention to that, but there is so much value in listening. That's how I began to build these relationships, because I truly care. I truly want to help. I truly want to listen and hear your story and see and hear about your journey. And then that's been a massive key for me to build those relationships. When you talk about the X's and O's of how Justin did it, it was by listening. That's
Absolutely. It. You got it. So what do you think why do you believe that experts, that the leaders who are listening to this, thought leaders, CEOs, entrepreneurs, why do you think they might need to be on podcasts? What's your sort of bent on that, why they need that? Because a lot of them would say, I'm not comfortable. I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I need to do this. I'm already got a $250K a year job. Why would I need to do a podcast?
Yeah. This is the only long form medium that holds people's attention. The only one. Television no longer holds it because we stare at our phone. Videos on Facebook, people are watching 8 to 10 seconds at a clip. The reality of podcasts are the audience that's there, 80% of them are listening to most of, if not all of the episode. It's the only medium that you can truly build a relationship, get to know your audience. They get to know you. Like I've gone to events. I just spoke in Utah and I had a 45-minute line of people waiting for me to talk to me, to take selfies. Most mind-blowing experience in my life. And it was like this really weird thing. And they were coming up to me and saying things about my life that I forgot I even shared. Right. And I was like, this is crazy. And I've been saying on a stage for months now that like, this is the medium where you can build relationships. But then I started to experience it. And it's so true because these people want to get to know you more. They want to spend that hour-long commute with you. They want to listen to you while they're cleaning their house. Like you are it's like an active listening thing. And I think that it's if we want to go even deeper, I think podcasting is going to shift the human race back to a little bit of a smarter human race, a little bit more attention span, a little bit more conversation, a little less texting, a little less 8 seconds at a time. And so this is the medium that if you're a business owner and you want to take your brand to the next level, this is how you build with your audience. 30% of podcast listeners are buying stuff that they hear about on podcasts. Crazy. Because they feel like they know you. And like we said earlier, when you get to know somebody, when you dive deep with them, it's the greatest relationship builder. Like I just said this recently and I was like, look, like a friendship doesn't become a really great friendship until you dive deep with somebody.
No,
like you have your buddies.
I talked about that in San Diego, is that real friendship is based on vulnerability.
100%.
Right. You and I sat there when we first met. We sat there that night, and I remember I was having a Diet Coke, and we were just sitting there, and we had a chat, and everything else was going on along, and we just dived deep, and we both got really vulnerable with each other, and we became instant friends.
Yeah, it doesn't always happen that quick. It's usually not like you have dinner and then Dov and Justin goes off and has a conversation, but it's so true, and that's all friendships. Like you have your friends that like, yeah, we watch the Eagles game together, and then you have friends where you're like, yeah, we sit and cry. You know what I mean? Yeah. And those are the friendships that require work and effort and opening up and being vulnerable. But podcast, man, it's the only medium you can do that. You can't do that in an 8-second video clip on Facebook. You can't.
No. And if you can, it will come across as very fake, very quick.
Yeah. And
I think that some people try to do that. And this is what I call faux vulnerability, faux authenticity, like faux fur, it's like a fake version of it. And I've been asked lots of times, don't you think you should do some short podcasts? And I do occasional ones that is just me for 5, 6, 7 minutes. But trying to do that in an interview, for me, doesn't work because I want to know the human being, not the bravado, not the label, the title.
Yeah.
In the context of speaking, when you are speaking now about overcoming adversity, talk to us about the context of that when dealing with a company, because you had the thing with your mom, you had the things with your dad, your high school scores were going low. That's all very personal, but for a leader listening, watching us, they might not get the context of that regarding their company.
Yeah. I think when you think about business, if you're bringing somebody in, a consultant or a speaker, myself you, Dov, whoever, you're in a spot where you're hitting some sort of rock bottom, or you're hitting a plateau and you don't know how to get out of it. Every time, you know, when I talk about my personal story, and we talk about the things that I went through with my mom, I had a choice at that moment. And that was to either push myself to the next level or allow this to define me for the rest of my life. And so when I talk about my story and I talk about how do you utilize podcasting and how do I tie these two in together and why does that go back to business, it's because we have a choice. We can continue doing what we're doing and what our past was and what today is. We can have that define us, or we can start making subtle changes and movements to take us to the next level. We're going to get uncomfortable. We're going to do things that aren't the easiest thing in the world. But that's what's going to take you to the next level. You have to push yourself out of that stagnant space in order to grow. And that's business, that's life, that's everything. And so that's really how I tie the two together, because look, there's companies out there that are, you know, $10 million a year, $15 million a year, and they could live there and they could be fat and happy. But you know, there's one person in an industry, if they are in that company, if they're bringing us in, they're not happy. Cool. Well, right. It's time to get a little bit more lean, and it's time to make the right choices. And let's take this to the next level. But it's gonna mean you're gonna get uncomfortable. There might be some pain points, but let's push through it and we'll get there. And so that's really kind of how I tie the two in, because, you know, you've seen it way more than I have. You've been in this type of industry for way longer than me. You know, these companies, they get comfortable, and then, but what happens if you're not growing, right? You die.
Of course. It's the rule of nature.
That's it. You have to have constant growth or you're going to die. Like, if you think Apple's happy with just being a $1 trillion company, you're wrong. Like, they're still, even though they're the largest, they're the bad boys. If they were happy there, they're going to not be the happiest. They're not going to be the largest. You know, Amazon will take them over pretty quickly if they were happy with being there.
Absolutely.
So you have to take those rock bottom moments or those stagnant moments and get uncomfortable and shift out of them.
So let's dive into that a little bit, because again, perception. People have a perception, right? So they look at Apple and they go, well, they don't need to do anything. They look at Amazon and go, they don't need to do anything. They look at Justin with your celebrity guest and they go, he doesn't have to do anything. They look at Dov and they go, he doesn't have to do anything. What is something that you do that others look at and go, that's easy for him, that is actually, even today, not easy for you, but you push yourself out of your comfort zone in order to up your game?
Everything. Like, yeah, it's so like I honestly, like, I am on the inside, I am the most shy individual who shouldn't be having these conversations. Like, Dov, I've known you, we're close, we're friends. I got nervous before this interview. Sure, the people are going to listen on the back end. They're going to be like, oh, that's so easy for him to go do that. I can't tell you how many of my friends go, yeah, you're great at getting on stage. They don't realize I'm shitting my pants 10 minutes before I'm doing it. Like, it's not comfortable. You know, when I'm interviewing, you know, celebrities, it's not comfortable. When I've asked the celebrity speakers that are coming to my event, hey, can you do this for free, mind you? That wasn't comfortable. There's not one thing that I do when it comes to business that's comfortable whatsoever. You know, but again, like, that's where growth happens, in those uncomfortable spaces. But pretty much everything, like, nothing has ever come easy for me. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I'm not naturally the most open. I think I overcompensate for being with being even more open than I should, because I feel like I should be so closed off. So none of this is comfortable for me. Like, I'm going to get off this interview and I'm going to go, oh God, that sucked. I was the worst. Like, it's just the reality of it. Like, it's how I am.
But, you know, it's fascinating, because I think that, as I said, I think that people look at you or me and think that things are easy. People don't know that I have social anxiety, that I have anxiety every time I speak. You know, that this shit can happen for me. You know, and I've been doing this as long as you've been on the planet. I've been doing this for 34 years. And I'm still, you know, I still get that way. And as I said, you know, people have these perceptions of reality, particularly in the context of others. And it's really important for us who are out in the public to say, listen, that's not actually how it is. Here's the reality of what's actually happening. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. What, in that context, still moving in that direction, one of the things that I know about the leaders that many of whom are my dear friends, and they're leaders in industries or whatever, like yourself, One thing I know about great leaders is we're all committed to growth. Every one of us. Your show is based around that. And I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit more about your show in a moment. But in the context of that, every leader I know is not only committed to growth. What is the one thing that you're still working on within yourself? What is it? What is the hurdle you're trying to overcome personally? Like that's the focus. That's what I really want to deal with now to get to that, whatever that next level is.
Yeah, for me currently it's my physical health. I can never stay committed to making this a lifestyle deal. Like if you like look at my Instagram, like I'm a weight fluctuator like no other, man. 10, 15 pounds up and down. I've made some small strides, but it's something that I've never been able to make a full-time thing, but I know how important it is. So there's clearly some sort of block that I need to work through and get to the next level. And it's funny because if you look at my show, right, you can tell that I use my show as the greatest teacher that you could possibly ever have. So like a couple months ago, I had a bunch of health people on at the same time because like I got to nip this thing in the butt. It didn't really work. I'm still trying to nip it in the butt.
I got to have Adam on. I got to have Rob on. I got to have all these fitness guys on. Because eventually osmosis means that I'll meet a fitness guy.
At some point, you hope that like just talking to these guys and spending time with them, I get a six-pack. Like that's
exactly. This is my 47th interview with a fitness guy. Shit, I still don't have a six-pack.
But it's so true. Like I had a really hard time because of what I went through as a kid with like love relationships. Like whenever I would fall in love, I'd fuck it up. I'd self-sabotage it and mess it up and run away. And so if you go back pretty early on in the show, I had a bunch of relationship experts on. I started to learn from them. And you could hear me ask questions that were very general, but they were also very personal.
Sure.
And so you start to learn. And that's something that I can tell you that clearly nobody's perfect, but I have made massive strides in relationships and understanding and listening and learning together and growing together and understanding that if I need the relationship to change, I need to change. It's not my job to change somebody else. And
right.
All these things I've learned and put into practice. It took time, but I have put them into practice. And my relationship now with my girlfriend is super strong. It's still early, but it's super strong. And it's one of the most complicated relationship situations you could possibly ever imagine, but it's also one of the strongest because I've become a stronger person.
Right.
And so, yeah, so like for me, the health thing is my biggest thing right now. So you'll see that a lot on my show. And you'll also see something about, I've done a couple of interviews where I've talked about scaling as well. So from a business standpoint, it's about how do I make that quantum leap in business at this point. And so those are the two things right now that I'm really, really focused in on. Like I actually asked you if this video is going to be aired everywhere, which I should have known, so I could wear a hat because I needed to shower because I had to get the workout in before so I could shower and do it instead of working out afterwards and then shower. The life of an entrepreneur. But I got the workout in is the important part. And so
it's the shower you missed.
Dude, if you're watching this on video, you know I look good right now. The shower. But yeah, so that's really what I'm focused on now. I'm having a really hard time making that a lifestyle change instead of just, little sprints. I need to make it a marathon.
One of the things that my friend John Assaraf and I were talking about, I recently interviewed him, and John's goal is to have a six-pack at 60, right? And he's in his mid-50s, so that's his goal. And he says, I want to be like you. I want a six-pack at 60. I was like, yeah, that's cool. But he said, but one of the things he's learned, and, because he does the brain stuff, and he says, one of the things he learned is if you want to have a six-pack at 60, you start out by putting your running shoes at the end of the bed. Mm. And he goes, and you don't have to do anything. You just, every morning, you just look at them. You just see them. And one day he said, you get up and you put them on. And he goes, and maybe you just put them on while you make coffee. And then maybe you put them on while you make coffee and you walk outside. And then maybe you walk around the block. And it's just these incremental. And I think that with goals in life, we always look too big. Like I'm in favor of you having huge goals. But the process of getting there, as the saying goes, is one step at a time. So It's that what is the incremental change today? Like, you know, on my wall over here is how much cardio I do each day. And it's just up there. And, you know, and my goal is to add a minute. That's it. My goal is to add a minute. And when I get to a certain amount of minutes, then it's to add intensity. And then it's the incremental intensity. But it's incremental. So, you know, everybody else would like look and not notice. But this is the process of life. It's incremental. And I think that we look at life as these instantaneous successes, instantaneous changes, and that's not how it freaking works. It works incrementally. So keep going with the increments. And that's vitally important, because if you don't, you're going to be on what I call, and I talked about this recently in an interview, if you don't, you're going to be on what I call the one donut diet. And you know what the one donut diet is? The one donut diet is this. I've been on a diet. I've lost weight. I'm doing really great. I've been really good for 2 whole weeks now. And I blew the whole thing because I had a donut. So screw it. I'm going to have a bottle of wine. I'm going to have 6 donuts. You blew the diet. Instead of going, oh, I hit a bump in the road. Now I'm back on the program. We blow the whole thing with a 1 donut diet. It's like, no. It's an increment. And it was an increment in the wrong direction. So now it's an incremental correction to go, okay, let's get off that and go back to the path that we need to be on. And
so that the 1 donut diet also shares the name of the Justin diet.
Right.
Which is exactly what I do.
Right. So, you know, I blew it because I had this. No. You hit a bump in the road. Now course correct. It's okay. Because that's actually a process of teaching yourself to forgive yourself as well. So there's all kinds of rippled effect to that psychologically as well. In your show, who do you feel like, because let's just, I hate to do the name dropping, but it's going to help for a minute. Tell us some of the people you've had on the show.
Dov Baron.
Yeah, he was a wanker.
By the way, that show, the responses that I got from that show were amazing. That episode, like it was incredible. I know this isn't the Toot Dov Baron show, but it's true. Like it was amazing. So thank you, by the way.
Thank you.
But you know, I've had Andy Frisella and Ed Milet and Fabio Viviani, and you know, some just massive people. Cindy Eckert, who's the founder of Female Viagra, which I didn't even know existed until I interviewed her. She sold a company for $1.2 billion. Natalie Jill. So these massive people whether it's in business or in the online space or even television stars that have been on my show. And I feel blessed every single day, man.
So the question becomes, how does this son of arrested people from the Midwest who at some point had a GPA of 1 point something, how does he end up chatting to these super successful people?
You know, I think it started with a desire to learn, to find out what it was that I want it to be, to figure out what's my purpose, why am I here, you know, and so it started there, and then I said I want to interview that person, and I would ask, and I think that's something that a lot of people miss. They don't do the ask.
Right.
Because they automatically just go, oh, they don't want to be on my show.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of a crazy world. Like I've actually had people say to me like, oh, I was like, oh, I saw you had Adam on the show. Like these are like mutual people that we all know. And they're like, and I said, oh, I saw you had Adam on the show. And I jokingly go, what about me? And they're like, honestly, I didn't think you'd want to be on the show, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of this crazy thought process, but you just have to ask, right? But it started with curiosity and saying for myself, like, how do I learn? How do I level up? How do I grow? Well, let's just go to the experts. And it started there. And now I'm in a place where they come to me. And that's crazy, right? But that's that incremental growth.
Absolutely.
It took a long time to get to that point. It took 2 years of me doing a show every single week to get to that point where all of a sudden, you know, Chris Drama Path from Robin Big, which is a massive show, he reached out to me and said, hey, I want to be on your show. You know, I think that's kind of the greatest testament to what you were just talking about that incremental growth. I mean, there's times where it started to turn the other way and I had to shift it back.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, but it all started out with a curiosity and a sense of how do I better myself?
Who would best benefit from listening to your show, do you think?
I think anybody who feels like there's no hope. Anybody who feels like their story is already written, who thinks that where they are right now is it for them. Because that's what I do with these people. I take these people that we look up, they're on a pedestal, right? And I take them to their lowest moment to prove a point, not to make them look bad, not to try and get them to cry, which some people have cried on the show, but to take them to that point so the people listening go, oh, shit. They had it worse than I have it right now. So what do I do to shift it? How do I get out of this moment? We talk about that on the show too. So it's really about those people who feel like this is it. And that, dude, like, look, that's different for everybody. It might be somebody homeless on the street, and it might be somebody making $1 million a year, but they feel like that's it for them.
Yep.
How do I do more? So, I mean, my ideal guest is a very broad, or ideal listener is very broad, but at the same time, we all are thinking the same thing. And there's moments that I think it.
Of course. In a world where we are often terrified, particularly today, of offending people, what's your bravest opinion?
Wow.
I actually asked the great Justin Schenck a question that has him go, oh shit, I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
What is your bravest opinion?
Wow. I think
something that you probably, I think of bravest opinions as it's the opinion you would have with your closest friends about something in the world that it might be misconstrued.
So I think, I immediately think politics, and I'm trying not to be cliche, but there's two within politics that people think I'm an idiot. One, there's still people out here that think this, but I think Donald Trump is one of the biggest morons on the planet. I think that he doesn't deserve the role. I think the country itself is an idiot for voting in a reality star. And so that's like a whole hate onto the country. Like, you guys are all terrible. But I also think that George W. Bush was one of the greatest presidents in the history of our country.
That's fascinating.
That one blows people away. Like, I think in hindsight, we're going to look back on George W. Bush as president, and we're going to say he was one of the greats. Like we did, dude, when Abraham Lincoln was president, he had one of the lowest approval ratings of any president because he split a country in two. But what George W. Bush did, and we can say it's because of oil and whatever else, but what he did was that country, those people, they deserve to be free. Isn't that what Abraham Lincoln did for our country when we were split in two? So I think in hindsight, I believe that the world will be free one day, and I think it's because of that man's choices going forward. So those two things, they're both politics, but other than that, I'm a pretty loving, accepting dude. So it's really hard for me to piss people off.
But those are brave opinions. I like them. Not saying I fully agree with them, and you and I will have conversation off air about them that are pretty interesting. Because I actually talked about George W. Bush last night in another conversation that was a very powerful one about him and Dick Cheney, and we talked about the veil between the worlds of the spiritual and the non-spiritual. So it's very interesting. Really, thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
Perfect timing, right?
Absolutely. So tell us something that brings you joy. Let's go to the other side for a minute.
Yeah, it's just my family. My nieces and my nephews and my family. I was just with them for a couple of days in New Jersey, and just love them to death, man. Like I'm blessed, to say the least. And it's funny because we're super close because of those things we went through, right. and those really bad moments. So that brings me joy, and the fact that my nieces and nephews think I'm famous, that brings me joy and makes me laugh. Yeah, dude, it's so great. They're like, "You're famous." I'm like, I'm not famous. I talk to famous people, but I'm not famous. And they go, "Yeah, you are." And so that brings me joy of laughter.
Sure,
but the heart is definitely just family.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Tell us a guilty pleasure.
WWE wrestling.
I knew you were going to say that because we had that conversation in San Diego. I'm like, what? Tell us why.
So
and now it's a political game because now that they're in Saudi, and that's a very interesting subject in and of itself.
Yeah, so actually part of the reason why I like it still as an adult is that conversation. Because so when I was a kid, I liked it because it's entertaining, and it's still entertaining to me. It's not as entertaining, so I don't watch it every week like I used to. But now I look at it as like, I go, what Vince McMahon is a business genius. He took something that more than half the world laughs at and makes fun of, and grew a massive brand worth a ton of money. And that's that, him going to Saudi Arabia is the most selfish choice he's made to make a ton of money. And that's all it is. It's just a money thing. But I look at it and so I watch it from that standpoint as to like, why is that person the champion? Why was Brock Lesnar champion for over a year, but he was on television like 30 times total? You know what I mean? So I question myself and like, why is this happening? So from that standpoint, I enjoy it from a business standpoint now, but it's also entertaining. Like, those guys are crazy athletes, man. They do not get the credit they deserve for the things that they do. And it's still real to me, damn it. Do you ever see that guy who says it's still real to me?
No, I've never seen that.
It went viral on YouTube, some grown ass man crying over it. But yeah, so it's just entertaining.
Cool. That's very cool. Thank you. So as we finish up now, I'd like for you to, if you could, share something with the leaders who are watching and listening that is a piece of practical guidance, something that they can take and apply into their business preferably in the next 24 hours, but certainly in the next 5 working days. What would you suggest that practical advice would be?
Reach out to somebody who you admire from afar and ask for time with them. So if you're somebody who's leading, a large company who's listening to this right now, reach out to somebody who you admire, saying, I want to run a company that size one day, and reach out and ask for time. And I think you'd be surprised with how giving people are with their time. So do that and ask the questions that you think that you'd sound like an idiot asking. Because for the longest time, dude, the reason I was bad at school was because I was afraid to raise my hand and ask the questions because I would think other people would judge me for asking the dumb question. But now I ask dumb questions every single day, and I've built a business around it. And so ask those questions you feel like you'd be dumb asking, because that's what's going to take you to the next level. That's what's going to break you out of the block that you have right now. So that would be, the quick answer
that is superb. Superb. I asked that question of everybody. That is superb practical advice, because our egos don't let us ask questions. They don't let us put our hand up. They don't let us talk to people who are smarter than us. And that practical advice of not only ask, but be willing to feel stupid asking. Because, I've said this for years, and it's been my experience of interviewing for all these years, and my experience of being a leader and working with leaders, is the most generous people I've ever met are the most successful people I've ever met. And if you ask them, they'll always like, oh, sure. And people say to me, my God, you're so busy. Could you make some time for me? And I go, yep, sure. Now, I won't let you waste my time. Yeah. But if you're showing up and you're really committed and you want to show up and you're not just going to ask me stuff about things that you don't really care about or that I can't really help you with, but that's fantastic practical advice. Thank you. That is awesome. Justin, this has been amazing. I've loved this show. Thank you so much for everything you shared. Thank you for being so open and so willing to be generous. You have been extraordinarily generous. Please tell our guests, our listeners rather, where they can find out more about you and all the resources you offer in the context of your own show, in the context of you speaking, and of course, you're going to have your own event coming up. So tell us a little bit about that too, if you would.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you. Like, honestly, I truly feel, and this is not just me saying it, I feel honored to be on the show and to know you and be a part of this and be able to share with your audience. But, if they want to know more about me, they can check out my podcast, Growth Now Movement. You can search wherever podcasts are played. growthnowmovement.com is the website where you can also reach out to me and ask me questions. Or what you did on my show, you can email me, justin@growthnowmovement.com, and ask me anything. Let's connect. I'd love to get to know you guys, on a deeper level. The one thing that I've done with this show is, even before the show launched, I've wanted to build a community and create a movement of growth. And a big way to do that is bringing people in a room together who are like-minded and are willing to level up. And so I've created Growth Now Movement Live, which is going to be May of 2019. And bringing in some incredible celebrity speakers. So actually, as of this interview, but obviously it'll release later. So I've already announced the speaker, but Fabio Viviani from America's Top Chef runs companies over $100 million. Sarah Centrella, who's the master vision board artist, she's going to be sharing her message. We have Albie Manzo from Real Housewives of New Jersey, and also some other incredible people. If you can go to gnmlive.com to get all that information, and it's going to be in Reading, Pennsylvania. I'm also inviting 20 movement makers who are people who have impacted my life personally, who've been on my show, who I've created relationships with, or whose shows have impacted my audience, for them to be there and help level up the room. And then hopefully some of those people will be speakers for year 2. But we're also hoping that Dov is going to make an appearance. We're trying to make that happen because that guy's impact. I'll speak to you and not your audience now. You've impacted my life in ways that you don't even realize. And so it's super important for you to be a part of what I'm creating. And so if we can make that happen, great. But totally understand that you're an extremely busy man. But yeah, definitely gnmlive.com if you guys want to come and be a part of an incredible day for entrepreneurs, forward thinkers, and people looking to level up their life.
Thank you so much, Justin. Again, been a real pleasure and honor having you with us. I hope you'll stay with us to the end. And for you, dear listener, as always, as I always say to you, listen, information is worth the hole in the donut. Transformation comes from application. And you've been given some great insights here. So please go away, listen again, listen twice, always listen twice. Take out a pen, take out paper, take some notes, and think about what you can do with what you've learned today. And remember, you can now chat about this show or any of our past episodes by going to Facebook and looking for our page, Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Podcast. And there you can chat about this show or any shows. You can chat with other listeners and even with previous guests. Remember, the research consistently shows that one of the biggest challenges facing the most successful companies can be somewhat counterintuitive. And these fast-growing companies often hit a point where they realize they're spending a fortune attracting, training, and developing their talent, only to have them leave at an alarming rate. If you're sick of investing in training and developing your talent, only have them leave before you get your ROI, then come talk to us at fullmontyleadership.com, where we provide you with the essential leadership skills to rekindle and amplify the hidden loyalty assets inside of your organization by tapping into purpose. Fullmontyleadership.com, providing you with the concrete skills to get you and your organization to the top and keep you there. Why? Because you can't outsource authenticity. Also, remember to stop by the Matrix, matrix.fullmontyleadership.com. You don't need triple W's, just matrix like the movie, .fullmontyleadership.com, and get your authentic leadership matrix self-assessment tool. It's valued at $197, absolutely free to you because you're a listener. And remember, you can catch us on Google and on Alexa by simply saying play Dov Baron Podcast. I want to thank you for sharing the show with everybody you know. Until next time, stay curious, my friend. Stay curious about who's out there that you could ask stupid questions to that will change your entire life. I'm Dov Baron. I'm here to assist you tapping into your deep greatness to reach that next level of clarity, focus, purpose, and profit in your business, your life, and your leadership impact. And I am out.